there, live at the White House tonight. A short time ago, North Korea launched another intercontinental ballistic missile, this one with greater range than any fired by the Communist North to date, escalating tension with Washington and its allies in the region, of course. It breaks a 10-week pause in Kim Jong-un's missile testing. Late this afternoon, President Trump did not say much, but was insistent.
A missile was launched a little while ago from North Korea. I will only tell you that we will take care of it.
The UN Security Council has called for an emergency meeting tomorrow afternoon. The North Korea escalation comes on a big day for the president's tax reform push. We have Fox team coverage on both big breaking stories. John Roberts here at the White House to tell us where we are on the tax package right now. But we start off with national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin, live at the Pentagon. North Korea's first missile test since September. Good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening, Brett. Missile experts tell us North Korea can now launch a missile over 7,500 miles on a flattened trajectory, putting every city in the United States now in range if the warhead survives re-entry.
It's the third time North Korea has ever fired an intercontinental ballistic missile. The ICBM flew 2,800 miles into space for a total of 50 minutes. That's more than 10 times higher than the orbit of NASA's space station.
It went higher, frankly, than any previous shot they've taken.
It splashed down in the waters off Japan within 280 miles of shore.
Today at 3:18 a.m., a ballistic missile was launched from North Korea's western coast and has landed in our exclusive economic zone.
The launch time unusual. Normally, North Korea launches at dawn or during daylight hours. The latest provocation comes more than a week after President Trump put North Korea back on the state sponsor of terrorism list, and after Trump warned North Korea, "Do not try us," in a speech in South Korea earlier this month. South Korea responded to today's test with a precision strike of its own, firing a short-range missile with a clear message for Pyongyang. This occurred 6 minutes after North Korea's launch. This is the 16th ballistic missile test for North Korea this year. With each test, experts say North Korea is getting closer to perfecting the re-entry of a potential nuclear warhead into the Earth's atmosphere, capable of one day striking the United States.
It's likely that the envoy from China, who just visited recently, was trying to negotiate with them, that has not succeeded.
Earlier today, the South Korean unification minister warned that North Korea's nuclear program is advancing more quickly than many thought. Quote, "We cannot rule out the possibility Pyongyang may declare the completion of their nuclear program in a year."
Tonight, U.S. diplomats have called for an emergency UN Security Council meeting to debate a possible naval blockade to interdict cargo ships going to and from North Korea. Brett?
We'll have a National Security Council official here in just moments. Jennifer Griffin, live at the Pentagon. Jennifer, thank you.
Iran and North Korea are literally testing the waters. After announcing that the U.S. and South Korea were preparing a 5-day joint exercise called Vigilant Ace from December 4th through the 8th with thousands of military personnel and more than 230 aircraft, North Korea fired yet another ballistic missile eastward from the vicinity of Pyeongchang at dawn today, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said.
As you probably have heard, and some of you have reported, a missile was launched a little while ago from North Korea. I will only tell you that we will take care of it. We have General Mattis in the room with us, and we've had a long discussion on it. It is a situation that we will handle.
A little over 2.5 hours ago, North Korea launched an intercontinental ballistic missile. It went higher, frankly, than any previous shot they've taken. It's a research and development effort on their part to continue building ballistic missiles that could threaten everywhere in the world, basically. And in response, the South Koreans have fired some pinpoint missiles out into the water to make certain North Korea understands that they could be taken under fire by our ally. But the bottom line is it's a continued effort to build a threat, a ballistic missile threat that endangers world peace, regional peace, and certainly the United States.
Thank you, General. And we will take care of that situation. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Japan also confirmed the launch and said the projectile fell into the waters of the Sea of Japan, the country's exclusive economic zone. Pyongyang's last missile launch was more than 2 months prior on September 15th. The 74-day pause was the longest seen in 2017, which has produced 20 missile tests in total. North Korea may announce completion of its nuclear weapons program in 2018, and South Korea has announced an urgent precision strike missile test in response to the North Korean launch, according to the Yonhap news agency. Meanwhile, North Korea's ally, Iran, announced that their navy will enter the Gulf of Mexico on a voyage to meet with Latin American ally Venezuela, a threat Iran has been making since 2014 after U.S. warships entered the Persian Gulf. Recently, the deputy head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards warned that it may increase the range of missiles to over 2,000 kilometers, enough to strike Europe. Brigadier General Hossein Salami said, "If we have kept the range of our missiles to 2,000 kilometers, it's not due to lack of technology. We are following a strategic doctrine. So far, we have felt that Europe is not a threat, so we did not increase the range of our missiles. But if Europe wants to turn into a threat, we will increase the range of our missiles." This, according to the Fars news agency. Of course, Europe can blame former President Barack Obama for scrapping the missile defense shield back in 2009 that was under development with Poland and the Czech Republic, not to mention unfreezing $100 billion in sanctions against Iran and then sending a plane with $400 million to Iran as down payment on what has inevitably become an investment into World War III.
We announced these payments in January, many months ago. There wasn't a secret. We announced them to all of you. Iran had pressed a claim before an international tribunal about them recovering money of theirs that we had frozen, that as a consequence of its working its way through the international tribunal, it was the assessment of our lawyers that we were now at a point where there was significant litigation risk and we could end up costing ourselves billions of dollars. It was their advice and suggestion that we settle.
John Bound reporting.
We begin our newscast with a coverage of a big breaking story. In the early hours of this morning, North Korea test-fired a ballistic missile into waters off its east coast. It's the first provocation by the regime in more than 2 months and the first since the U.S. has redesignated the regime back on the list of state sponsor of terrorism. Now, the missile fired very early this morning, as unlike the previous ones, has been confirmed by the Pentagon to be an ICBM and has reportedly flew hundreds of kilometers before landing in the East Sea off the coast of Japan. Now, keeping us abreast with the details, we have our Yoo Junhee on the line for us. Junhee, what do we know so far?
Taemin, according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, North Korea launched a ballistic missile in an easterly direction at precisely 3:17 a.m. local time here in Seoul. Now, the projectile fired was fired from the city of Pyeongseong, which lies roughly 30 kilometers northeast of the capital, Pyongyang. It was reportedly in the air for 50 minutes before landing in the East Sea, 210 kilometers off the coast of Japan's Aomori Prefecture, an area which lies within Japan's exclusive economic zone. As you mentioned, this is the first time North Korea has test-fired a ballistic missile in 75 days, with the last one occurring all the way back in mid-September. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis confirmed the latest missile was an ICBM, and Pentagon officials say it flew roughly 4,500 kilometers into space, higher than anything previously fired by North Korea.
And Junhee, what has been the immediate reaction from South Korea as well as other regional key players like the U.S. and Japan?
Well, Seoul was the quickest to react, Semin. The South Korean military launched several missiles of its own just 6 minutes after North Korea's missile test. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff said it conducted precision strike drills off the eastern coast using a Hyunmoo-2 ballistic missile as well as other weapons fired from a South Korean fighter jet and a Navy vessel. Over in the U.S., President Donald Trump was also briefed by security aides, but was rather unfazed in his reaction and offered only short remarks. Trump told reporters that the U.S. will take care of the matter, that it was something they could handle, while sharing no other details. In Japan, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe called an emergency meeting of his cabinet immediately following the launch. Just prior to that meeting, Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga urged North Korea to change its policy, warning of the grim future it faces if it stays on the current path. That's all for now, and we'll have more updates later as further details emerge. Back to you, Simon.